Imagine being married for over 30 years and you hear from your partner, I don't want to be married anymore. Imagine what that might feel like. Well, in today's episode, Rob and I are going to be sharing that exact story with you and why it's so hard when one partner wants to make some changes and the other one isn't quite ready yet. Welcome to Beyond the Gray, the podcast about gray area drinking and how it impacts your health, relationships, purpose, and faith. This is where we have real conversations about the topics successful men over 50 don't usually talk about out loud. If you've built a great life but keep asking, is this it? You're not alone. When alcohol becomes your go-to off switch and your marriage, health, or purpose feel disconnected, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Kari, and this, my friend, is where the gray ends. Welcome back to Beyond the Gray. I am so excited that you are here because today I have a very special guest joining me, my husband, Rob, and we are going to be sharing our story. It's not the first time that we shared it. However, it is the first time on our own podcast, and Rob will be joining me for future episodes. So I hope that you will enjoy this one. And more importantly, I hope that this really helps those that need to hear the situation that we were in, because I don't think it's that uncommon. I think it's more common than we'd like to admit. And I've said from day one on episode 1 that we will be having hard conversations here. And that's exactly what this conversation will be today. And maybe you're already thinking about your own relationship or your marriage where maybe you're not attracted to them anymore. Maybe things have changed. Maybe like us, you are married for decades and things evolve. And maybe you're at that place right now. So I want to really dive in. We're going to share our truth and tell you what happened and how it happened, because I know we're not the only ones. And again, the goal of this episode today is to show you what happens when two people aren't on the same page, and more importantly, what you can do about it, because that is the goal here. We are big fans of marriage and we want to see people stay together. So for context, I guess I'll start. I quit drinking in 2016. It wasn't for a couple of years until I started my business in 2018. And by 2019, Rob had just turned 50 and we were going this way pretty rapidly. I had started my own business. I'm super excited about where I was, and we weren't on the same page. I felt as though I was doing this and he was down here, and not that I was better than him or elevated, but I felt like this huge disconnect was happening. This affected all areas of our marriage, our intimacy, our communication, how we related to one another, and I just wasn't in a good place. So the bigger part of that was I feel like our identities were on different pages as well. Here we are, empty nesters. Both of our children had moved out of the house years prior. One was already married, or almost married, I should say. Oh, no, yeah, he was already married.
He was married.
And things change.
Mm-hmm.
Dynamics change, especially in a long-term relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I was at emotionally, super excited about my business, gung-ho, left a 6-figure job, and I want to give him the opportunity to share where you were during that time.
It was a normal year for me. Kids were gone. We had sat down and had the conversation about, life's going to change. We're not going to be the same people. We're going to have to get to know each other again because the kids are no longer the sole focal point of our lives.
Can I just interrupt for 1 second?
Sure.
The context of that was back in 2014-ish.
Something like that.
Before I quit drinking, we had that conversation.
So I'm thinking everything's going great, right? She decides to quit drinking. I'm all supportive of it because, quite honestly, we did have conversations about some excess, how I felt it was too much, didn't want to see her, become like some other people that I cared about in my life. And so I was excited for it. So, it was just a place where I was just still doing what I was doing. Was working every day. I was being the supportive husband. I was supporting my wife to quit her six-figure job and go ahead and just start her own business and say, here we go. So I think I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. And quite clearly, all I did was have my head down in the minutia of everyday living and not everyday growing or building our relationship or our marriage. I think that about sums it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the time, I felt very unsupported and unseen by him, which is somewhat hilarious when I say that out loud, and you'll know why here in a minute. One thing that I think is the biggest issue here was I had expectations of him just wanting to give up alcohol the same as me, him to be on the same page as me in regards to self-development and working on bigger goals, and he wasn't there. The attraction shifted. Both of us had gained some weight right after I quit drinking, believe it or not. It was a very interesting time. Um, and just feel like eternally we were on these two different pages. And the bigger part here that I really want to share, which really stinks to say it out loud, but again, I want to share this because I think it's going to resonate, is that I was secretly judging him. It's sad but true. I was thinking about, I can't believe that he's not wanting to do these changes, and look at him making poor choices, and how come he's not coming along with me, and why isn't he journaling in the morning, and all these sorts of things are going inside my head. So as this resentment is growing in silence, he's feeling certain things as well. And I think you already said some of those things about one of them, though, you didn't mention, is you turning 50. About
Well, yeah. I mean, I was at a point in my life where, again, ever since I've been a child, birthdays never meant a lot to me. My birthday never meant a lot to me. But for whatever reason, when I hit my 50th, I was like, wow, I'm half of what I'm thinking I might be on this planet. So that brings a lot of questions. Why am I here? Have I done my job? Am I being the best version of myself that I could be? Or am I just a guy that goes to work every day, comes home, sits on the couch and watches TV? Right? What does that look like? Yeah, I go to the gym. Yeah, I do all that stuff. But what defines me? Who am I? Why am I here? Is this my purpose? So those types of questions were going through my head. I think a lot of people at that age start asking themselves that question.
definitely.
Because for a lot of us, our work does define us. Our family does define us.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you want to grow and expand, it really doesn't define you. It's not your life's work. It's not what you were sent here to do, right? So that's the part of the journey that I was secretly on, not articulating that to Kari. And there's a couple words that you should hear over and over and over again that are common: change, communication. We weren't talking. We were not sharing goals, expectations. That wasn't happening. And we thought, and quite honestly, I thought everything was fine. I really did. I thought everything was fine
And that
because I'm a glasses half full kind of guy. That's the way I live my life. I've always been like that. If you guys ever seen the movie Silver Linings Playbook, right? There's a silver lining to every situation that God puts you in. So for me, I'm just like, yeah, we're going to get through this because in my heart, in my mind, in my soul, we're a unit. It's Rob and Kari, or Kari and Rob. It's not just Rob. It's not just Kari. But Kari was in a place where it was like, Kari's going this way and Rob's going this way.
Mhm.
And there's truth to that. However, for me, it was like a bump in the road of growth and, maturity. Because again, we're not the same people that we were when we met,
That's right.
right? We're not.
That's right.
So,
That's very common of long-term marriages, especially because
mm-hmm,
you're not the same person that you were when you got married. I
mm-hmm,
mean, we were married very young, at 20
mm-hmm.
and 22.
Yep.
So at this point, we're on our 30th year of marriage when
Yep.
this all came to a head. And I'll say too, Rob was in a serious gray area with multiple places: work, his health,
Mhm.
obviously the marriage. His drinking was never really a problem at all. He wasn't
No.
even a gray area drinker. He was very much a take it or leave it social drinker,
Mhm.
unlike me. And so, but there was all these gray areas, and it just came to a head. And honestly, during that time, I was in a gray area, obviously, with the marriage as well. And working on my self-confidence, because I'm trying to understand, like, how could this be happening? How could we be going in this direction? And it's so common.
Mhm.
And this is why we're having a tough conversation today and sharing this with you. So, let's get to the climax of this story, because I ended up going to a retreat in Guatemala. It was a really awesome experience that I got to go on. And I came back from that retreat in the fall of 2019 when I said to Rob, I don't want to be married anymore. Even though I said those words and they stung hard, I didn't want a divorce. I just didn't want that marriage any longer. The people that we were during that time frame wasn't working. And I think he knew that deep down, but because his head was buried, it hit him in a different way. And how was that for you when I came home?
Yeah. So
Shared that.
I'll put a pin in that really quick. So, like, history, my mind, my life, through my adolescence, uh, through teenage years, even into when we were married, I could tell you 3 stories about guys thinking everything's great, and their wife comes home and says, I have to go find myself. And then they get a divorce. And I'm like, when she told me that, oh, I'm that guy. How can this be happening to me? This is ridiculous. So I was extremely resentful. I was extremely angry.
Mhm.
I was not happy, and I was hurt because I'm like, after all we've been through together and what we've built, that's all you have to say.
Yes.
And I'm like, wow.
Yes.
So it was very, very difficult for me. Yeah.
It was very, very hard time. And
Hmm.
again, I didn't want a divorce. I just didn't want that version of us at that time. And it
And let's
was,
put a pin in that for 1 second, because the key to that is that statement is it was never articulated like that. If it was presented to me like, hey, we need to make a change, not like, I don't want to be married anymore. So what was said and then what was heard, again, the communication was just not truthful and honest and truly where either one of us were coming from in our heart for each other. So go ahead.
yeah. And that was the thing. We were never incompatible. Matter of
Mhm.
fact, we're very compatible, scary so. It was that we were misreading each other.
Each other's
I,
intentions
and I,
and expectations.
the expectations is a big piece of this.
Hmm.
So while this was very, very, very difficult, the hardest thing I've ever had to do was to tell my husband how I was truly feeling. And I didn't hold back. I let it all out. I figured, well, I threw a bomb at him, might as well throw it all. So we shared a lot of the hurt, a lot of the pain on both sides, the expectations on both sides. And it escalated to a point where we weren't sure what the future was going to look like. But there was always this deep love there, no matter what, and a deep respect for one another as human beings and our faith. That's
Hmm.
one thing I will say for sure, is that we both have a strong belief in God. And we believe that when you're married, you do everything you can to stay married. And again, I didn't want a divorce at all. I just wanted a different version of us.
Hmm.
So the big turning point in all that was we had to find new language to communicate. And right around that time is when I was introduced to my now colleague partners, who we do the intellect scan together. It's their company, and I was one of the very first coaches to be introduced to this technology and trained on it. And they said back at that time, hey, why don't you both get scanned? We'll use this technology and we'll overlay your scans and we'll show you where your compatibility is. And I was like, sounds like a great idea. And I have to tell you,
She's saying, sounds like a great idea. And I'm like, okay, great. Another evaluation. I've done this 85 times with 85 different ones.
yeah,
They're going to tell me the same thing. Boy, was I wrong.
yes.
Boy, was I wrong.
And that's just it. This is not a personality test. It's so much more
Yeah,
than that.
it's so much more than that.
It's looking at the person in a 3D dimensional way and looking at different traits of motivating traits and behavioral traits, which a lot of tests do look at, but one of the most important ones is cognitive traits, and understanding how all of those make up a person and understand how and why they behave the way that they do, what motivates them, where they're placing their attention. And when we have all this information, we can really guide somebody and better understand them. So we said yes to it.
Mhm.
And I will tell you that this one opportunity that we had truly was a game changer.
Mhm.
We learned things about each other that I had no idea about. Now, at this point, I'm married to this guy for 30 years. I'd
Mhm.
known him for 32 years up to that point, and there was things about him that I was unsure about. And it was like pulling back a curtain and saying, oh my gosh, how did I never see this? It's almost like once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's always been there, and I never had language for it. And so one of those big revelations for me and him was that his lens in which he views the world and how he sees things is through stability and being the harmonizer and being the shock absorber for everybody else and holding it all together and being the worker bee and taking care of all this stuff, like the steady Eddie guy, right? This big rock. And I was like, oh my gosh, I always said he was my rock, but I never had language for all the other things. And the reason why he took everything so hard is because he thought he was supporting me. And I'm thinking I'm not being supported, which is ironic. So by the time we got through that, and what did you learn about me that you were like, whoa, that was eye opening?
So a lot, a lot. But I think for me, the biggest impact out of us reviewing that together was watching the light bulb go off for her to understand me. Honestly, that's no
That's
BS.
true.
I'm like,
Yep, that's true.
because the person who did it really did a great job peeling back the layers of that onion, and the light bulb, you could just see it because she was exploring all this stuff. She was understanding it. And I think, again, the heck with what I learned. It was my awareness to what she was learning to help better our relationship and understand me. And again, there's a lot of things that I've known about my wife that this process really brought out, but I really knew it. But again, her attention to all things aesthetic is like off the charts. Okay. The perfectionist, right? But she's also, there's nothing that she cannot do. Nothing. She can get, no matter what you put in front of her, she's going to figure it out. But again, I think for my soul, when I saw that, it was literally like a light bulb went off.
Mm-hmm.
And she had this aura around her, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
This is impactful.
And I think the thing that was incredible was the empathy that we both had for each other drastically increased, because now we have language to put around how we were feeling and what was missing, and having this new language to create between us that we were able to communicate and share with each other what we needed. So one of the things that we say in our world at the Intellect Scan is that's the old version of us, and now we get to build the new version of us. And truly, that was the bigger picture here, the more exciting picture, because now we're on the same page. We had to go through that muck. We had to go through that tough time. We had to experience it in order to be sitting here today to share it with you and to do the work that we do when I work with couples so I can help them see this communication in a different way and have the language to put with it so you can understand your partner. When you are married for a long time, 30 years, 20 years, 40
Mm-hmm.
years, whatever, not only does the lifestyle change and the dynamics change and the careers change, you're not the same person that you were 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We're not the same people we were 10, 15 years ago. Thank goodness, right? We keep evolving and growing. That's the goal here, is for us to become a better version of ourselves every single year. We want to keep getting better at that.
Mm-hmm.
And to be in a place where you can do that together. The biggest piece that I want to make sure that I'm saying here is, as badly as I wanted him to come alongside me with quitting drinking, which, by the way, we left that part out. He did make the decision
Mm-hmm.
in 2019, that same year at the very tail end,
Mm-hmm.
he chose to end his relationship with alcohol. Why did you do that, by the way? Because it was not for me.
It
Matter of
had
fact,
nothing to
I
do with
said,
her.
please don't do it for me.
It didn't. I made a statement when I was 50 that I wanted to get in the best shape of my life. I didn't do it. I did me, right? And that's truly, at that time, the path that I was on was, all right, well, you do your thing. I'm going to support you 100%,
Mhm.
but I'm doing me and I'm going to do what I want to do. I've asked your permission. Are you okay if I have a beer every once in a while?
And I
All
said
that
yes,
fun
by the
stuff.
way. I
Yeah.
said yes.
So again, the
Which-
communication was wrong. It was not. She should have said, yeah, that was going to bother me. But to wrap up where we were going with that, I just did my research and found out, and I will say the statement, and I stand behind it 100%. There is nothing good about alcohol, period.
Mhm.
Period. Don't let anybody kid you. The glass of wine BS, the this, the that, it's no good. It is no good. It is killing your body.
Yeah.
It's 100% sugar. Okay. Sugar is
Well,
the
it's a
roots.
toxin.
It's the roots of all evil, right?
Yeah.
And if you're really on a health journey, like I started to get on, to be the best version of myself as I age, so I'm going to have a good life. It just was the right decision for me at the time. And it
Yeah.
fit our situation. It really did.
He said, I want to be in the best version of myself when I turn 50. And I said, well, why are you waiting till 50? Well, that seems like the best year. Okay, great. So
Mhm.
50 comes, he did nothing. Matter of fact, that's when he was at his heaviest and the worst in his spirit and his soul. And so part of this jolt, if you will, really helped him see, like, oh my gosh, I need to make some changes. And I now want to do it for myself. And so he made that decision, and it was another reason why we then were able to really join forces, because even though he asked me when I quit drinking 3 years prior, hey, are you okay if I continue to drink? My
Mhm.
answer was yes, because I didn't want to tell him no. He's a grown man. He can do what he wants. He didn't have a problem with alcohol, but secretly, I was resenting it.
Mhm.
I was not happy about it. I never told him. So shame on me. And this is what happens when you keep quiet, when you're not truthful with your partner and yourself. The resentment grows, and it grows big, and it grows deep and long, and it becomes a massive problem. And that's what happened. It came to a head.
Mhm.
So I want to make sure that I say this, and then we're going to move on to some questions that you can think about for yourself with your relationship. And that is knowing that you can't force your partner to make a change. I am asked this repeatedly, whether it's people sending me messages privately on LinkedIn or Facebook, whatever, or pulling me on the side if I know them. Hey, my wife is drinking a lot and I really want her to make some changes. Can you help? I said, well, I can talk with her, but here's the thing. Unless she or he is willing to make those changes, it's not going to go anywhere.
Mhm.
You have to go through this stages of change. The trans-theoretical model of change is a great model to look at, and we'll talk about that in a future episode. But until someone is ready themselves, it's very difficult to make that change, because it's all tied to how you think about yourself, your identity, which we covered that in the last episode. So when we have this frame of what we believe about ourselves, the stories and the belief systems, and our thoughts, and we take all of that and we see how we are through that lens. And back then, I'm just a drinker. I drink. I'm a wine connoisseur. I'm a wine snob. I know everything there is to know about wine. That's who I believed I was. So to say, hey, you can't drink anymore, if he was like, hey, yo, you can't drink anymore, which he did at one point, I'm thinking he's attacking me, right? So this is why it becomes a very personal problem. And until that person is ready, it's very difficult. So how do you support your spouse during those times? Let's talk about some of those hard questions. I don't want us just to tell our story and it not be useful to you. So
Mhm.
one of the biggest questions is, what am I expecting from my spouse that I have never clearly said out loud? What have you expected from your spouse that you haven't said out loud? Whew, okay, so some examples, and this is how I felt with Rob. Some of these, I expect you to quit drinking because I did. I expect you to get in shape. I expect you to be more ambitious. I expect you to support me emotionally. I expect you to lead spiritually. These are all some really common ones that I hear. And then, have you actually said that? Or are you silently grading your partner? If I'm being honest, I said and did all those things myself. And no, I never told him until I came home from Guatemala. So that is a good question to be asking if you are in that. And Rob, you are going to ask question number 2.
Yeah. So if you are a man in the situation, you may ask yourself, what pressure am I carrying that she doesn't see? What am I not saying because I think I should handle it? So again, in our society, the man carries the weight of the world on his shoulders of his family, right? And he's not going to share that with anybody because that's weak. Well, that's not necessarily the truth. That's not really the roots of a good marriage. You should be able to share anything with your spouse, who is also your best friend, and be able to communicate that and articulate that in a way that they understand what you're saying. But that's hard to do. It's hard to do because you don't necessarily want to, because you may look weak.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And, you know, a lot of people withdraw because they feel overwhelmed, inadequate, behind, or unsure of the next move. So, do you feel like that? Of course. It's part, I like to say yes, because it's part of challenging yourself to growth. If you're feeling like that, it's an invitation to get better and grow. And there's a way to do it, right?
Here's question number 3. And this, again, is one that I experienced. So, not comfortable, but we're here to have uncomfortable conversations. Question you can ask is, are you still attracted to the person your spouse is becoming? Are you attracted to that spouse? And I'm not talking just physically, although that's hugely important because let's face it, you're married, you want to have some intimacy with your partner, hopefully. And if you're not physically attracted, that makes it very difficult. But besides on that side of the fence, I'm also talking about emotionally and energetically and spiritually. And then flip this. Flip the question. Would you be attracted to the version of you?
And that's where it
Right?
starts. And again, I have to say, if you look at yourself in the mirror and you're good, you're good. You're good. This is not about, uh, physical. It's really about mental. We may be okay with what's on the outside, but we're really struggling with something on the inside.
Yeah.
That's a big, big piece of this that I think we in our society don't like to talk about.
Yeah.
We'll say more of the physical stuff because it's honestly, it's easier. It truly is.
So gaps don't close by remaining silent. You have to be willing to do this with conversation,
Mhm.
right? Let's talk about the conversation that you are avoiding. What conversation is that? Truly. What truth are you afraid to say to them? And what are you scared will happen if you do say it? Because listen, most couples don't fall apart because of conflict. They fall apart because they avoid it. And that's the truth. Another really great way to approach that is there's something that I want to share with you. Is now a good time for you to be able to receive that and ask for permission.
Mm-hmm.
You always want to ask for permission before you start in on a deep conversation. You want to set that tone.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about a couple areas that you can start to improve on, but I really want you just to focus on one that you know is a massive issue right now in your relationship. Is it that you have a disconnect with your health and your body? Is it your faith? Is it the communication? Is that the main problem? Usually that is. Does it have something to do with finances? Is it as simple as date nights that you're not having those times together? Does it have anything to do with you guys working out together or your physical connection in that way? Because when you can have those conversations and you can begin to talk about those shared small wins together, you're going to be able to rebuild that connection. And really, this is all about you. Your voice and how you feel is up to you. You have full agency over how you want to approach this with your spouse. And when you're open and honest, it's going to go well. And when you're closed off, it's not going to be so great. So being married in your 50s is more than maintenance at times. It should be that we are starting to finally chill and really enjoy the fruits of our labor for all these decades that we've been working and getting ready for retirement. And it is a great decade, and it's a way to get recalibrated to one another and get prepared for what's ahead. But if you don't recalibrate together, you're doing it apart. And that's just an honest statement. So I encourage you to lean in. I also wanted to share that if you were interested in learning more about the intellect scan and a service that I offer called the His, Hers, and Ours, which is exactly what Rob and I went through back in 2020 to really save our marriage and help us communicate and understand each other, is exactly what I offer to my clients now. I will put a link in the show notes. You can visit my website and see more about that. Honestly, book a call and we'll talk and we'll see if it's a good fit for you and your spouse. And I promise you, if you do it, it will be one of the most eye-opening, unbelievable experiences that you will ever have. And it's not therapy. We're truly looking at facts and we're understanding language and how you two can communicate and looking at the diversity, the intellectual diversity of the two of you and how we can intertwine that to make you stronger, to create a new us, a new version of you and your spouse. It's an incredible thing. Rob, I want to sum all this up, this whole episode together by asking you a question. If you could tell that version of yourself back then one thing, what would it be?
Be curious. Ask more questions. Be willing to grow.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Yeah. Especially the curiosity part. Because again, if I was on a different path of growth at that time, and my wife came home and said, I'm really not happy with our marriage, and I was more mature in the spot that I'm in now, I would have been like, well, tell me about that. It doesn't resonate with me. I'm not understanding it. Let's just break that down. Instead of me getting angry and defensive and hurt and all that other stuff. And I didn't have the tools in the toolbox to do it at the time. I had them, I knew of them, but I just wasn't present in that space of growth and continual learning.
Yes.
So,
and I think that's one thing I know for sure the intellect scan did help us with, because now we have languaging that we can help each other grow in a way that we are doing it collaboratively. So to sum all this up, I want to share that growth is a way you don't have to think about separating or growing apart from your partner. It's a matter of getting clear, the more clear you can be, the faster you can bridge this gap and you can have the life that you truly want. Because my goal for you is to know that there truly is life beyond the gray. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope that this episode blessed you and that you will find a way forward. Thank you for watching.